Yeah, I believe in you. I don't believe in lucky sevens. I'm not sure about my nest, but I know I believe in angels. I believe in happiness.
Good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to see you. I'm back. It's been a couple of weeks. Went through that cold, which I don't even know what that was. I honestly think it was a new strain of COVID. And I just missed the boat on trying to test my son. And then I got it and I did it again. And then another kid in my family got it. And I forgot to test them again, but it was pretty nasty. But we're feeling great. Everybody's ready for summer. We're ready for school to be out. We are going on a boat with a mouse pretty soon, a little Disney cruise. That'll be fun to get away. Well, I would definitely like to tell you about the sponsor of the evening before we get to the guest of the evening. And this is going to be a really exciting show. We're going to talk about a couple of topics that I don't normally talk about on this show. So we're going to talk a little politics. So if you're into the politics of what's going on today and difference of opinion and where you get your news and all that kind of stuff, stay tuned because I have Brad Berkwitt connected with us tonight. All right. So the sponsor for the evening is Water Joe. Water Joe is a cool little product. Of course, it is water. They come in multiple sizes. They are available at waterjoe.com, Amazon. I love Amazon. I've got to do a double sponsorship here. Let me tell you, I haven't been to the grocery store in I don't know how long because I just order my groceries. Why do I need to go out to stores with other people? I don't, and I love it. My little introvert is like doing the happy dance every time I wake up in the morning and my grocery bags are on. I feel like a queen, right? Like I should have a robe or something because my people brought my groceries. I love it. Anyway, Water Joe, Walmart and Beverages Direct. This is really, really great water. It is just spring water with caffeine, water plus caffeine. That's it. But it doesn't have a bitter taste. It's really going. It's great in the car for a long haul. So check out Water Joe. All right. So let's talk about Brad before he gets up here for the evening. Welcome back to the show, Brad Berkwitt, a boxing television announcer. He also hosts the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show podcast and has in recent years been focused on newsmakers and personalities who are engaged in current events and politics after having previously had a focus on sports. Brad's background has been in amateur boxing, where he was among the top young amateurs before joining the Navy, earning many medals and later joining the Department of Homeland Security. He's an expert in military intelligence and espionage, but he is also a staunch supporter of civil rights and has lent his support to activists in the movement to improve policing, equality, and diversity, and others by featuring leaders on his podcast and participating in events. And without any further ado, Mr. Brad Berkwitt. How are you, Brad? It is great to see you. He's coming up. There he is.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Hey, how you doing? It's great to be back. It's great to be anywhere. The old Shecky Green Line or whoever it was, Jackie Mason.
It's really great to see you. It's been, what, about 18 months or so?
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Last time you were on the show, we were talking about being inducted in the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And you told us all about that.
Yep.
You had already started the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show, right?
That is correct. I brought it back in, as you said in your intro, it was sports. I changed it in September of 2020 was when I changed the whole format of the show, the whole premise and everything else.
And so how did it change?
Donald Trump. Donald Trump, and COVID. Okay. Being home and just seeing what was going on in the United States and across the world, and just I have to be honest because that's the only way I am. The insanity of seeing him on TV every day, I was like, I can't do this. I mean, I always had the activism in me. It comes from my father, Alvin Berkwitt.
Mm-hmm.
But just Trump, and not just Trump alone, just the madness of what was going on in the country, and people not getting vaccinated, and people didn't want to wear a mask, and people wanted to get up on you when it was supposed to be 6 feet, and just the insanity. And I shouldn't say I hate to say it, but it seems like since COVID, it's exposed us to a part of society that probably was already always there, but it's like lost its mind. And I don't know how we get back to, on all sides, some type of normalcy.
Right. And
And you said something. I gotta piggyback. You said you talked about groceries. We used to have our stuff delivered. We don't anymore. But I got to be honest with you. You said something about going in the stores. Now this is kind of ties in what you said. You know, storefronts and businesses don't like that we order on Amazon, have stuff delivered to the house. But what they don't understand, and Deb and I talk about this all the time, is you go in a store and it's not like the old days that you have some. How can I help you? Can you show me? Oh, yeah, I'll take you to the aisle. Now you go in the store, they don't want to even look at you till you check out. So why go into the store or be around people that act, some of them act crazy, when you have it delivered to your house? So I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a very different time. And there's so many different topics that I do want to explore with you.
Mhm.
As I had said, in the intro, that this is going to be a different show. We're going to talk a little bit about politics,
Mhm.
which I haven't really said too much about in previous shows. But, when it comes to going to the grocery store and stuff, yeah, I definitely noticed that going through COVID, that the people working there, it's like everybody just shut down and put their blinders up, right? And even now, you go into the grocery store, and I'm somebody that I'm going to say hello. I'm going to make eye contact, look at you, and say hello. How are you? Give you a smile, something. And there's these kids or people, even older people, like stocking the shelves. They will do everything not to look at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Hey,
I don't know.
isn't that
I
crazy?
don't know. I mean, I got a meme that I put up and I say, kindness is strength. And people that say the opposite are the weak ones. I don't know when kindness became something that is like a sign of weakness with a bunch of people. It's not. Like,
No.
to be honest with you, it's very hard to be kind to someone you want to choke the shit out of. So when you're kind, it's extra hard. But yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so speaking about Trump, I mean, I remember watching just him getting out there and talking about his run for the presidency for before he was elected. And man, it's so hard because for me, I'm pretty center, right? I want the best for the country business wise, but you also want the best for the people as a whole. And it's really, really hard because he would say one thing and then he's got like this, how you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth. He's
Mhm.
born with a freaking foot in his mouth.
Right. Right. Yeah, but that's a point that a lot of people say about the business side. But the thing is, the truth, and this is only facts. I don't even. I mean, everybody has an opinion, but facts are facts. He's a failed businessman. Trump Steaks, Trump Water, Trump Airlines, the casinos. They all failed. So people, people that got enamored with them were from I never watched it, but from the Celebrity Apprentice. But even his line of "You're fired" was given to him. Yes, it was highly rated show. I'm not debating it. But he had people. You're in the entertainment business. I acted. You've had more of an acting career than I have. But there's people that tell us, "There's your mark. Here's your cue. There's this." Here, and people got enamored and feel that he was such a successful businessman and he was going to run the country as such. Well, that didn't quite happen.
So Joe Mathis is watching and he's saying, I disagree, sir. Joe,
Okay.
please tell us your point of view. I definitely want to hear everybody's point of view. Nobody's wrong. Nobody's right. We're just having a conversation. But, okay. So where do I even go with what it looks like we're going to have for choices for the next election for next year? Who would you want to see running for president? Let's start there.
Well, I mean, I have to be honest. I'm a Biden supporter, but but I understand the age thing. I think Donald Trump has done dozens of businesses. Yeah, he has, Joe. He has done dozens of business. That's true, and they failed. I mean, you go research him and look him up. I mean, that's I'm not going to debate with you. Has more, say, 3 filed for bankruptcy. No, that's not true, Joe. There's way more than 3. But okay, but back to your question. Would I like? Look, I've said this about politics, Democrats, Republicans, Congress, Senate. First thing that we need in politics that I feel is term limits. We don't need people that, and maybe this sounds ageist or whatever, ageism. I think we need younger people in office. I really do. And I think the Democrats, that's one of the things with, even though I'm backing President Biden, I'm going to say that because if you go to my Twitter platform, you'll see it. But would I like to see somebody younger? Yes. If it was the Republican side, for me, I only speak for me, Trump shouldn't be able to run. After January 6th, that's it. But he's able to run. Today, he was found liable. He's got the Alvin Bragg case. Now, he can't go to prison on that case. That's another, I think, civil. But the January 6th, the documents in the entry, in the intro that you said about my background with military intelligence, I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't be on your show if I was caught with one document classified. He was caught with over 100. That's fact. People could spin it any way they want. They caught him.
So what about the documents that they have found that Biden has had for the vice presidency?
And Biden was found with documents. It's different, but it's still not good. And also Pence was found with, I don't know how this is happening with these documents because I worked in that world for over 20 years. And how documents were taken, I don't know. At least, I'm not a Mike Pence fan either, but in fairness to Pence and in fairness to Biden, they gave it back. They didn't have to go raid them. They gave Trump many, many chances to turn that stuff in. Okay, and he didn't. He didn't. And they went in there and he had a lawyer sign whatever it was, that there was no documents. That was it. And then they found more. But in answer to your question, who would I like to see run? If you ask someone, look, we need 2 parties in this country. That's fact. I don't want all the Democrats and I don't want all the Republicans. You need 2 parties. Actually, I like to see more than 2 parties. I wish there was more than 2 parties and they were viable like you see in England, but we don't have that. The independents, there's a lot of independents, which actually I'm one of. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm independent. But for me, on the Republican side, I like John Kasich when he was running out of Ohio. Okay, I'm pro-choice. He was pro-life. Not every candidate's going to check my boxes, and that's fine. That's fine. But somebody like him, I'm not for Ron DeSantis. I think I've lived in Florida. I think he's destroying Florida. I don't know why he's taking on Disney. That's ridiculous. It's one of the biggest money makers in the state. And even Trump is saying, what the hell are you doing taking on Disney? It's a business. What are you doing? And then he goes say the other day, I'll build a jail next to him, which it's just ridiculous. But if I had my choice, it would be somebody younger than Biden. I can't even say right now because the only leading candidate for and not Robert Kennedy. I think your viewer said Kennedy. Mm-hmm. No way. Kennedy is a conspiracy theory guy, and he's also against vaccinations. He's saying, what about immigration? We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a minute.
But I wish there was a whole. Like I said, I would like to see term limits. I like to see a younger age for the president, whether it's on either side. I wish Trump would move on because what he's doing, no matter where you stand, I would hope that people at least would agree with this point. Republican or Democrat, you've never had an ex-president in our lifetimes that every day since he lost the election, and I'm not that whole he didn't lose the election. Donald Trump told you he didn't lose the election. 60 out of 61 cases in courts of judges that he appointed to ruled against him. Cindy Powell, Rudy Giuliani, all these people are being sued. Dominion, if Fox was so innocent, why would they pay Dominion $787.5 million? And they have to, it's not like Trump who delays and appeals. They have to pay that money. That's part of the settlement right now. And they fired their golden goose, Tucker Carlson, which they knew what Tucker was already. but they fired him, which is a big deal because 3 million viewers a night. Okay.
Yeah.
But we've never had a former Republican or a Democratic president act like this after. Okay. Ever. Every single day, this guy is out there saying things that are moving humanity backwards and attacking democracy. And if Joe Biden did it, I'd call him out on it too. I don't care what side, because the one thing I will say that I get tired on both parties, it's more Republicans right now, but Democrats are guilty too, is it should never be party over country. It should be country before party, and they both get in trouble. How did John Gotti get off so many times? Well, Trump is trying to, what's his name? Joe, Trump is trying to do the same thing. Okay, if you're going to bring up John Gotti about intimidation on jurors, come on. All those social media posts, you got Trump attacking Alvin Bragg and his wife, Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, Merrick Garland's son, and his wife. When do we start attacking families of people? The judge had to tell him in the Bragg case, that's it. No more with this, because what Trump wants to do is taint these jurors, just like the mafia with intimidation. Same thing.
So what about, you had said that you are Team Biden. You're on, okay. What is it that you like?
Number one that I like that used to be actually a Republican and Democratic thing where they could get bipartisan, and they actually did, was infrastructure. Trump talked about infrastructure and never did a thing about infrastructure. We got collapsing bridges. We got old airports. We got a lot of issues in this country, highways that are crumbling that we built up.
A long time coming, though?
Very long time coming. And look, I'm not going to give President Obama credit for it. Biden got it passed. Now he got it passed with bipartisan leadership. And let's be honest, I'm not a fan of Mitch McConnell. In fact, it drives me nuts when Biden says, my buddy is Mitch, we're going to work across the aisle. Mitch isn't going to work across the aisle. However, I give credit where it's due. When he went to Kentucky and they cut the ribbon for the bridge, Mitch McConnell was there because he knows I think it's between Ohio and Kentucky. That bridge was falling apart. He got it passed. You had Biden when he came in getting probably as many people as him and his administration, as many people getting vaccinated as they could. What happened? A lot of people on the left too, they decided, Deb and I have been vaxxed and boosted. And if I got to get another booster, I'll get it. To date, I haven't grown a third nipple, and I don't walk past the TV and the channels change. So I don't buy into that shit, that conspiracy stuff. The Trump supporters got mad at Trump. This is fact. Melania, Barron, who I never let anybody talk about Barron because he's underage. I'm just mentioning him because he got vaccinated. And Donald got vaccinated before they left the White House. One of the very first rallies he did, he threw that out there to his rally and said, get vaccinated. You know what happened? They booed him. And then from there, he never mentioned it again. COVID still exists. I'm not saying it's as bad as it was, but it's still here. Yeah. We loosened up, and we don't do the distancing anymore. We don't do any of that stuff, but it's still here. We're not dying in record numbers because a lot of people are vaccinated. But 30 years ago, we would have got vaccinated. 20 years ago, and it wouldn't have been a Republican or Democratic politicized issue. If your kids go to school, they got to get vaccinated.
Joe is saying, I'm listening to you, my friend. I just disagree. At the end of the day, we are all Americans.
We're all Americans, but Joe, I'm going to tell you this. As a person that gave 20 years and 28 days of my life during War and Peace, you're not not you. I'm not saying you, Joe, because I don't know you, but I'm saying this because I say it publicly all the time. If you still support Donald Trump if your bridge wasn't too far, January 6th, when the Capitol with Trump, none of the top echelon, all the foot soldiers, Enrique, Elmer Stewart Rhodes, all of seditious conspiracy, whatever, I think it was seditious conspiracy charge, which is a very hard charge to get hit with. They all been found guilty, all of them. If you're okay with January 6th, and I have a problem with veterans too, that went to the Capitol to overturn an election because Donald Trump told you it was rigged, and you're okay that they shitted in offices, that they destroyed the building, that our tax money, by the way, has to pay for it. Who pays for that? It doesn't come out of a Democrat's pocket or a Republican's pocket. Those people went in there and tore stuff up, went in offices, turned furniture over, pissed in offices, beat up cops. Joe, the Republicans were the party of law and order. But Michael Fanone, who was a Trump supporter up until it happened, the guy with the beard, who was tased and had a heart attack and had to beg them and told them, I have kids. This is true. You had Sick Nick who died. You had police officers that lost an eye and lost fingers. Where is the respect for law and order? And when they had the memorial for him a year later, you know who went? Besides for the Democrats? Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney. Not Ted Cruz, not Donald Trump, not any of them. You got Donald Trump making Ashley Babbitt a hero. Ashley Babbitt is not a martyr. She went in there and got shot. They told her to freeze, and she got shot. They had no business going into the Capitol. If you want to peacefully protest, peacefully, fine. But Trump and Giuliani, the rest of them knew what they were doing.
That's a good topic next. I do have this one here. Where do you get your news? What do you read? What are you following? Where are you finding it? Because I'm noticing that, especially for someone like myself, where I am really in the middle. I can't say I'm right wing, I'm not left wing. So I wind up listening to left, listening to right, listening to what's supposed to be centrist, and then trying to piece it all together myself. Are you doing the same thing?
To an extent. I don't watch CNN anymore because I feel CNN sold out and they're trying to go to the right. First of all, he just got today found liable for, only thing he wasn't charged with was rape. And the only reason why, let's be honest, from her testimony, was because she didn't know if he penetrated her or not with his penis. That's what it boiled down to.
Right.
You had MAGA people in the jury that they said it. I think there might have been 2 people that were MAGA, but they unanimously ruled that all the other things, sexual assault, defamation, all of that stuff, they ruled against him. $5 million. It's hard, but there's nothing with Fox that you could trust because, like I said, they're not news, and every time they get sued, they always try to tell you they're not news. Okay, CNN is gone. They're moving in the right. Honestly, the only one I watch is MSNBC, and I'm not saying I always agree with MSNBC. I have specific people I like to listen to. I like to hear Glenn Kirshner when it comes to legal stuff. I like to hear Frank Figliuzzi, who was the assistant director of counterintelligence, the FBI, for almost 30 years or 25 years. Glenn was a federal prosecutor for 30 years. There's people that I like to listen to. There's other people that I like to read. Like I do like the reporting on Clarence Thomas from, I think it's I forget the name of it. I don't know if it's ProPublica. I can't think of the name of the source, but all the stuff that's coming out on Clarence Thomas. But it's difficult. And I'm going to tell you something. I get on my liberal people too. Like, for example, I'll give you a perfect example because I only deal in facts. You can disagree with me. That's fine. But the truth is this. Like they'll say, the other day I had to set somebody straight. They said, no Trump ever served in the military. I said, no, I'm not a Trump fan, but that's not true. Mm-hmm. Fred Trump Jr., who was Marielle Trump's father, mm-hmm. who died from alcoholism in his early 40s, served in the Air National Guard. Now, Donald and his father, Fred, mocked him about going in the military. He was a pilot, teasing him about you're nothing but a bus driver in the sky and all this negative stuff. Trump, people may be shocked when I say this. I don't have a problem that Donald Trump didn't go to Vietnam. A lot of people didn't go to Vietnam and they got deferments, but he got 5. And they were for bone spurs, which he can't tell you which foot they were in. A lot of privileged, rich children dodged the draft, okay? He was at a military academy, Joe. That's a big difference. Come on. You can't, everything you want to take up for him. He was at a military, we'll get to the border issue. Don't worry. We're going to get to it. The military academy. And he wasn't even a good cadet, Joe. You got to do your research. Do your research. Just don't listen to me. Go check on him.
So let me ask you. So what about the Daily Wire? Any of those guys? Do you listen to any of them?
Some of it I do. Some of it I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't give you specific names. I look at because there's so much media out there.
Right.
You know, what's dangerous is you not doing your homework and research and stuff, whether it's on the left or whether it's on the right. Okay. Yeah. When I do my show, you could disagree with me, but I'm not Kellyanne Conway. I don't deal in alternative facts. They're facts. I double check and triple check the things that I say. Now, you may have your opinion, but facts still are facts. And that's another thing in media. Frank paid 40.
Sinatra paid 40.
Oh, Joe, you're going south with me now. You must know me, Joe, because you're talking about Sinatra. You're going to get whacked. Okay, be careful, Joe. Be careful. Dodge Nam. How could he? He wasn't even. He was 50 years old in 1965. What are you talking about, Joe? He was born in 1915, brother. Now, don't Joe. Frank Sinatra's off limits, Joe. You can talk about Biden. Don't talk about Frank. But check it in answer to your question. Check your sources.
Yeah.
Check your sources. You know, like I said, progressives say, "Oh, you can't." I'm very liberal on social issues, but I'm more conservative on spending. They say you can't be that. You can be that. You can. And I'm a retired military, so I've seen budgets. I see where we waste, fraud, and abuse with money. But go ahead.
So, all right, let's talk about immigration and the border.
Mm-hmm.
That is a hot topic. It's come up a couple of times, especially for Joe.
Yep.
So, with you being a former or a veteran of the military from the Navy,
mm-hmm.
where do you see the issues? What is needed to fix it, in your opinion?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, the Democrats and Republicans have effed this one up. Okay. What I will say, I'll start with this. The fear mongering on the right, okay, when Trump said the caravan, first of all, maybe we talked about off camera, when he announced and he came down the golden elevator, and the first thing out of his mouth, which was disgusting, are Mexicans are rapists and murderers. But I'm sure some of them are okay. Really, but all the work that Mexicans that come here with the roofing and Mexican restaurant and all, y'all love them then when they're doing your roofing, when they're cooking your Mexican cuisine, especially in the area I live in. Democrats and Republicans need to stop with the bullshit posturing and fix the problem. I don't have all the answers, but I know this. One, fear mongering is not good. It's not good, because then you got these people going out and shooting. We just had somebody yesterday with running a car in front of a migrant camp or a migrant, whatever it was. Wrong. First and foremost, this country was built on immigrants, whether they were Hispanic, whether they were Italians, which I'm almost 50%, Irish, German, Jews came here, all different groups. We were a melting pot. That's why they wanted to come here, for the American dream. The issues at the border, first and foremost, I absolutely agree. People must come here legally. Number one. The wall bullshit about building a wall, that's a bunch of crap. He didn't build the wall like he said. And how about this? We're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Never happened. It was ridiculous. But the MAGA, yeah. How is he going to make Mexico pay for it? Because he's such a great businessman. No. They have to come here legally. We need it. And the thing is, you would think that we would want them to come here legally, because think about it. If they come here illegally and they go through the process, they get their green card, and eventually they become naturalized, that's tax dollars. Yeah. They go and work. Then they spend their tax money, the money they make, they pay taxes, they put it back in the economy, they live in houses, they build, whatever it is, it helps us. So they're not our enemies. I'm not saying we don't have some bad characters that come here, but we got to look. If a mother is carrying her baby hundreds of miles through terrain, come on, you're gonna tell me she's a drug dealer, she's a rapist to carry her young baby?
You know what?
Where is our compassion?
You know what my daughter said the other day, and it made a lot of sense. And my older daughters, they're in their early 20s, and she's like, "Mom, you've been trying to hire." I own a construction company, right? You've been trying to hire workers, especially specialized tradespeople, for 3 years now, and maybe we'll get one. Maybe we'll get one that doesn't know what he's doing, so he leaves. Like, it's really hard to hire anybody. And I think that's nationwide. And she's like, why don't the companies go to the border and try to hire some of these people, put them through whatever checks they need to put them through, and relocate them, give them a work visa,
Yes.
and get them working. The ones
Right.
that, because
Right.
there's a huge percent of them that are truly here for sovereignty
Right.
and
Right.
to make a better life for
Right.
themselves.
Right. Right.
It's
And I mean,
really
going down there and shooting video and talking a bunch of crap, and it should be a bipartisan effort.
yeah.
Okay. And I'm not saying the Democrats get it right all the time, because they don't. And the Republicans don't get it right. But like I said, when is it going to be in our political system on both sides, country over party?
Yes.
Okay. They want to come here and work. We need work. Look, Americans have got complacent. You hear Americans say, well, 20, 30 years ago, you'd go to a Circle K or a 7-Eleven, and it was Americans. Now it's Middle Eastern people. And I said, yeah, you know why? Because they come from their, first of all, they have a hell of a work ethic, where not all Americans, not all, but a segment of society has become complacent. It doesn't have a gender, it doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a religion. Americans, okay? So you go in there and you see, well, they go back to their country. They come here, they work their ass off. They bring a couple more of their family over here. They get a house. They all live together for a while. Then they invest and they build. Then they own one place, and then they own another place, and they own another place, which is the American dream.
Yeah.
We got people that won't go work in the fields, but the migrants will. And they're good at doing it. They want to do it. But I'm going to tell you something, too, that we need to stop doing. Pay them a fair wage. Take care of these people. Because if they're busting their ass for you, don't pay an American $12 and say, well, you know what? I'm going to use it illegal. I'm going to use it with a work visa. I'm going to pay them $8. That's not right. That's not right. That's not American.
No, it's not, and it has been happening for a very long time. We all know that. So let's see. Joe is saying, if you're a Mexican drug dealer and there are now open borders, would you send your constituents in hoping they get through? Well, yeah, yeah.
I don't understand what he's saying.
I think he's referring to the fact that you can just walk across. And so many people are just walking across. Even the gotaways, all that kind of stuff, the people that we don't know. We don't know who they are. We don't know why they're running. It's going to be impossible to find them.
Right.
So
no, there's a definite problem. There's a definite problem. But the answer wasn't putting kids in cages and separating them from their parents. How evil you have to be to do. And then he reversed that because he got so much heat. You still have kids that are separated. And the thing is, put yourself in their shoes. I don't care if you're white, you're black, you're godly, you're not godly. Think about your kid being separated from you, a baby.
So what do you think is going to happen? Because Title 42 is ending. So, I mean, it is May 9th. I
think.
We've got 2 days.
Right.
Do you think Remain in Mexico is going to be what they decide on? What do you think is going to happen?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't believe with the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the fear mongering you're going to have 750,000 people run across. I don't buy that. I don't know exactly what's going to happen May 11th because look, when Trump talked about the caravan, it didn't happen like he said. Like I said, the fear mongering has to stop. The posturing on both sides have to stop. Democrats and Republicans need to figure out a way, but it's hard. Here's the deal, okay? Years ago, and it's not, when I say years ago, 15 years ago, you could have Republicans and Democrats be in the House and in the Senate and fight like cats and dogs. And at the end of the night, they went to Georgetown, they got a beer and they shot the shit. And most of them were a lot of friends. But what's happened with one party is you've got the worst of the party controlling the party. You got Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Lauren Boeberts and the Matt Gaetz controlling the party. And the Republicans that are more centered, that some of the stuff I actually in the past agreed with some of the stuff on, they remain silent. Kevin McCarthy, look, not in your lifetime, Liz, and not in mine, did it take 15 times for a speaker out. You could hate Nancy Pelosi's guts or you could love her. But the one thing I will give Nancy Pelosi, she would have never went to the floor not knowing she didn't have the votes to be the speaker. It took 15 times for Kevin McCarthy. And unfortunately, Kevin had to give everything away to a contingent of his party, the MAGA wing of his party, who is willing to not pay our debt and go off the cliff, how that would be catastrophic. Even though under Trump 3 times, they raised the debt ceiling. That's the biggest problem. But there's definitely a problem at the board. I don't have all the solutions, but what your daughter just said, that's common sense. I actually believe that a lot of our problems are common sense solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is you got both parties that get so much money from lobbyists and groups that they're controlled, a lot of them, so they don't want to do the common sense thing. So once again, it's party and money over country, and that's got to stop.
Right.
Got to stop.
So, all right, let's go towards guns. All right, I want to know where you are with the guns. Being former military, is it the guns or is it the person who pulls the trigger?
It's both. It's the guns. It's the guns first, but we have let's talk the mental health part. It's mental health too, but it's more guns. We, as a democratic society, don't deal with mental health the way that we should. It is definitely a major, major problem in this country. That's number one. Number two, as a military person, ex-military. Now, I wasn't a gun guy. I was in the Navy. I worked in Intel. For me, I'm a gun owner. In my nightstand, I've got a 38 loaded. If somebody comes in this house in the middle of the night and breaks in, I don't care who they are. I don't know what their intentions in. I'm either going to wound them or I'm going to kill them. I'm sorry. That's bluntly said. I don't know what they're going to do. They're not going to hurt my dogs. We got little dogs, and they're not going to hurt Deborah. You have no business in my house in the middle of the night. It's locked and it's alarmed.
Yeah.
However, I believe in people having the right to own guns. Nobody needs an AR-15 to protect their house. That's a military style weapon, and you don't need it. And it's walking around. Look, I have a concealed weapons permit. Okay, I'm for carrying a concealed weapon, but you don't need to walk around with an AR-47 or whatever the hell number it is on your side, and two 38 or whatever on your. How many guns do you need? How many guns do you need? You go hunting, you got a rifle, you got a shotgun, whatever you got. Protect yourself, absolutely. But walking around with a gun that shoots off that many rounds, that guy in Texas Sunday, what it was Sunday? Because every day is a mass shooting, got out the car and started shooting and just started killing babies. Uvalde was a year ago. I believe the number is 87. It's either 80 or 87. I believe it's 87% of the country. Now, country is all Americans, Republican, Democrats, independents.
Okay.
Want responsible gun laws, meaning you just can't go buy a gun. You have to go through checks. They also want red flag laws enforced. I never bought into Hillary's going to take your guns away. Obama's going to take your guns away. Nobody wants to take your guns away. But if you can't care enough that young kids are being killed and innocent people, you can't go to the fucking mall. Excuse me, but it's just really bothers me. You can't go to the mall and you run the risk. Synagogue, church, movie theater. We got other countries now that have us on warnings about coming here. Usually it's us warning us Americans to go in other countries.
I know.
You know what? I'm not offended by this. I'm not offended by it because we got to do something. And I'm going to tell you something. Thoughts and prayers, and I believe in God. I'm not a Bible thumper, but thoughts and prayers aren't going to do it. So if we ban AR-15s and all the criminals have to do is get AR-15, I hear you, Joe, but you know what? Criminals are going to still get guns, but there's ways to crack down on that too. You're never going to solve the problem 100%. You're not. Bad people are going to get guns, but allowing anybody and everybody to get AR-15 is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And under the Trump administration, and go look it up, Joe, after this show, they had laws about people with mental health issues that they couldn't get guns. Trump lifted it. Under his administration, he lifted it. Go look it up, Joe, and then you could hit me up on Twitter or just type my name and you got to actually, you'll find me. my email address and everything else. Okay.
I do agree with you. The red flag law is a very good common sense thought. You know, a doctor, a psychiatrist, someone can call in and say, listen, this person I believe would harm themselves or someone else. They do not need to own
Right.
a gun. Okay, Joe is saying that he disagrees with that. I love that Joe is staying with us because our next topic is the national debt. So that is something else that's on the table that I don't, it's difficult. It's like, I don't see any other thing to do other than to raise the debt ceiling, but that's going to lower the value of the dollar eventually. And we're already, I mean, we've been going lower for a while now. What's your opinion on that?
Well, we have to raise the debt ceiling. Even though I hate the status quo, yes, I could tell you under Trump, it was 2 or 3 times they raised it and it wasn't a fuss. We have to pay our debts. But you know what? At what point do politicians, when I say politicians, Joe, I mean Democrats and Republicans, and I think Bernie's the independent. Don't even get me started on Bernie. And Angus King is the independent. I think that's it. Everybody else is either Republican or Democrat. The spending, the waste that we spend it's ridiculous. Why can't we tough it? No, Joe, we can't tough it. It'll be catastrophic. It will be, if we don't pay the debt, it will go into default and it'll be catastrophic. Yeah. It's not, we can't, that's easy for you to say. Look, I'm the type of person, I didn't have Obamacare, which is really the ACA, but my significant other does. And a lot of people that I care about do. I have TRICARE because I'm retired military. But I'm the type of person, I don't just look at how it just affects, well, it won't affect me, so I don't care. No, I actually care about a consensus of people. So, Joe, you may say tough it out, but a lot of people are going to suffer for it. But in response to your thing, again, we have to get back to putting the country first. We have to cut spending. We have to. I believe, this is what I believe, a hand up, but not a hand out. You cannot have generational welfare, for example. You might lose your job and need help. You might get unemployment. But it cannot become a way of life. If you're able to work, you should work. Now, with that said, if you're able to work, we also need to pay a living wage. Nobody should be in poverty who works 40 hours a week. Right. Nobody. And I know it's tough to raise, but come on. You have oil companies and Walmart and different companies that are making record profits. Pay people a living wage, period.
So going back to our national debt, of course, the budget always seems to have a massive amount of spending and aid that goes to other countries. Right. Granted, these other countries are our allies. We have to work together. But are you at the point where you're like, really? Like, really? I mean, that's $3 trillion to this one country. Is it worth it? And I'm kind of peeling away, getting into your intelligence mind of saying that massive amount of, may it be artillery, whatever it is, that goes to another country that is in distress. Does it really help us here in the United States?
It does, because and that's a tough thing, because I'll be honest with you. I've been a person who said in the past, how is it that we always help I know humanitarian efforts, but I always said, how do we help out other countries with starvation and stuff like that when we have people in our country starving, people that are homeless? Now, I have said that, and I still stand by that. But with Ukraine, you had Putin, and see, that's another thing. You never had President Reagan. He was the poster child for the Republican Party. Whether you like Reagan or you don't like Reagan, this is where I will take up for Reagan and Papa Bush and McCain. They never, and this is my wheelhouse, would say that Russia, whether it was Gorbachev or Yeltsin, and especially Putin, because we could talk to Gorbachev, but I'm not saying completely trust him, Russia, but Putin is a whole different animal. You have people in the Republican Party. You have a former president who praises Putin, that he's a genius and he's this and he's that. He invaded the Ukraine. If he invades Ukraine and he took them over and we don't help them, then who's next? And Putin is the type of person that will continue. He's a mass. And you know, we want to talk about whether you're Democrat or Republican. You never had one before, both sides, that praised and wanted to be best pals with dictators. Ukraine, they're fighting for freedom. Yes, they're fighting. I agree with you, Joe. But I also understand. See, this is where the Democrats run afoul with me. We live in a day and age where you have social media, where everything is thrown in our faces from all different directions. You should be out there, and I have to give Zelensky credit for this. He does do it a lot. For people that are on the fence, because there are people who say, no, that's terrible. They're murdering children over in Ukraine, and Putin is terrible, contrary to what Green says and Trump says and all these people. But you have to explain to people why this is. That's why I had like Malcolm Nance. I had him on my show. He works he actually fought over there in Ukraine. He's retired Navy. He was a senior chief. You need to have people explaining. Like when Zelensky came to Congress and he spoke, you need more of that. You need to explain to people. Democrats' biggest problem is they want to pull out charts and they want to talk in $500 words. And the average Joe wants a lot of what they're doing, but they don't understand it, or it's not coming fast enough, or you're talking about this, but they want to hear about that. You know, we vote you in because you tell us you're going to do this, both sides, and both sides, a lot of times you wind up not doing it. But Ukraine, we have to stand with them. And you have Republicans that are more centered, that like on forward. Like when Ron DeSantis made what was this stupid line that got him in trouble? He said it was an effing territorial dispute. No, Putin invaded the Ukraine. We have rules of engagement. He's blowing up hospitals and apartment buildings and places that they shouldn't even be bombing. Now, I'm not saying that when we dropped the bomb in Hiroshima that we didn't level everything, because we did. Okay, we're not innocent. America's not innocent. We do things too. But there's rules of engagement. Putin isn't remotely trying to. You have Russian soldiers raping women, murdering children. I mean, come on. That's not part of any rules of engagement. Period. No, but it's tough. But it's tough, and I understand. We say, well, we're putting all this money here, but we infrastructure and homelessness and mental health, and yes, but they have to get it out there. But final answer I feel on this: we have to fight in the Ukraine. We have to fight. I'm glad that we're giving them weaponry and not sending our boys in there, our men. UN Charter disagrees with Putin. Yeah, they do. They do disagree with Putin. But, I mean, Putin's a mass murderer. And the problem is you have a former president who says he's a friend. You have Trump that says, if I was president, I would know what to say. No, he wouldn't. Trump and Joe, I'm going to say this directly to you. In 2017, Joe, I'm sure you remember this. Trump stood in Helsinki at the podium next to Putin, and he said, and I quote, I asked Putin, did he meddle in the election? He told me no, I have no reason not to believe him. Dan Coates was the head of the DNI at the time. He was sitting in the front row. His jaw fell. Excuse me. That was treason. You never had a sitting president, Republican or Democrat, say they agree with Russia. Okay. And the thing is, they did prove in the 2016 election that Russia did meddle. Now, let me say this for your viewers. Not in the voting machines. Nobody got in the voting machines and changed votes. What Russia did, and it was a committee, the Republicans agreed. They did a campaign with warfare of Facebook and Twitter with fake news and all this stuff. They infiltrated it, and it was proven. No, they didn't go to voting machines. That's why when Trump said they took votes in the machines and they flipped them in this, and oh, come on. Come on. No, I'm not, and I won't let the liberals say crazy stuff about, there was interference. And I'm going to tell you something. If Trump would have won the second election fair and square, I would fight against him every day and twice a day. But I never would sit there and say the election was stolen. And I want to make one more point about that for Joe. Joe, as an American, in your lifetime, and Joe, looking at your picture, you look like you're 20 years older than me, Joe. So you've been around longer than me, I'm sure. When have you had a Republican or Democrat who lost an election, fair and square, who didn't do, it's not in the Constitution, but it's a norm, peaceful transition of power? Trump was so effing 55. We're the same age, Joe. It's your picture, man. You look like you're older, dude. You look like Sinatra with the tie. You need a fedora. When have we ever had a president that didn't go to the inauguration? As much as I don't like Mike Pence, and I think he's a coward for not telling the truth about what he knows about Trump and January 6th, he went to the inauguration. Trump got in a plane, and Joe, you mentioned Sinatra, and played My Way. He did it his way. And even Sinatra, who, by the way, was a Democrat and went Republican, there's a story about that, would not have tolerated, he wouldn't have liked that. Peaceful transition of power. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
So let's talk about the social issues, because those are hot too. You know, we are just teeming with issues here in America for the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. And you know, you had said something, I believe we were still in the green room, about normalcy, and maybe that was just in the beginning of the show. We've been chatting for a minute, but yeah, people are really struggling to get back to the normalcy of what we felt that we had. And social issues are so diverse and so big and so great. There are companies that are feeling the impact of taking one side or the other. And like I said, you know, I'm down the middle. I'm trying to listen to both sides, knowing the truth is somewhere in the middle. And that's what I wish I could get to. Right. But our journalism has changed completely.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And I can remember I was dating someone who was not from the United States years and years ago. And he made a comment. He's like, "Why are you watching that?" And we were young. We were in our 20s, and I had turned on the news. He's like, "Why are you watching that?" And I'm like, "The news?" He goes, "Yeah, it's not news. It's yellow journalism." And I didn't get it. And then I've thought back to it again and again. I'm like, oh my God, he was right. And that is what I feel like we've been consuming. So it's so hard to get to the truth. But the social issues that we have out there, and that's a big question, but where are you with some of them? You're welcome to explore anything.
Yeah, no, here's my thing. Like I tell everybody, I'm liberal on social issues. I'm pro-choice. I'm conservative on spending. I think we do a lot of waste and fraud. Here's the thing. In the past, if somebody was a Republican, and when I was a Democrat, because I was a Democrat, I was Republican for about 10 minutes till Trump came along, and then I left, and I'm an independent. But I lean blue. I'm not. I say my mind. I lean blue. I want two parties. I actually want more than two parties, but it's not going to probably happen. I wish there was a third party that was viable to show up the Democrats and Republicans about making promises to your constituents and not living up to them and being really more centered. But with social issues, I think what's happened in this country is that we have a tendency not to deal with whether it's racism, whether it's LGBTQ rights. My father, I have a pin. If you follow me, Joe, I don't know if you follow me on Twitter. I have a pinned video on Twitter of my father on June 2nd, 1977, NBC Nightly News piece that was done. And he took on Anita Bryant, who was discriminating against gay people then. It wasn't LGBTQ, it was gay and lesbian. And he fought against Anita Bryant, who used religion which is another issue. That's another thing with me. Used religion and weaponized it, because I believe in God. But religion has been weaponized, bastardized, and monetized. So you'll probably never see me in a church again. I wasn't bar mitzvahed on the Jewish side, so I didn't go to synagogue. I went to church with my Italian nonna. But I feel that religion, there's so much money in it. But the social part, I think if this country would deal with our problems within it, because we're not perfect. Okay, that's why I would get mad with this MAGA slogan, "Make America Great Again." We were never great. We had the potential to be very special, but you're never going to be completely great because we got some evil people on both sides that do some evil shit. So when you don't reckon with your problems, when you had slavery, and then in the 1960s, you had civil rights. They put dogs and hose black people down, fighting just for equality. Right now, you can't even get the Voting Rights Act passed, where everybody has the same rights, period. But what's happening is we're having a reckoning, and it's all coming at you at one time. And I'm trying to be as fair as I can. It's a lot to consume. However, when the LGBTQ community and the African American community especially have been marginalized for so long, and still you have police killing George Floyd. You have cops, black cops too, they're not innocent, pulling over I forget the guy's name now who it was that they killed. What's the young man's name?
I can't remember the name, but it was in Tennessee.
They've been charged.
Yeah.
You have to deal with systemic problems, social issues. You cannot constantly put your head in the ground. And I'm going to tell you something, Republicans. If the Republican Party would have dumped Trump after the bullshit that he pulled in January 6th and said, you know what? We are going to still be the party of pro-life. Not everybody's going to agree with that. Okay, fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to become inclusive and not exclusive. And we're gonna reach out to the LGBTQ, African Americans, Mexican Americans. We're not gonna back a guy that said Mexicans are rapists and murderers, but I'm sure some of them are okay. Even though he employs plenty of Mexicans at Mar-a-Lago and other establishments that he's had. And they wanted to be inclusive and not exclusive. They probably would have wiped the floor with the Democrats, because the Democrats make a lot of promises, even though I'm still with them. It's hard a lot of times, and they don't live up to them, which is becoming more and more prevalent in our society. But you got drag shows. Look, I got nothing against drag shows. Now, you have some people that are saying, and I haven't seen it yet, I'm not denying it, but I've heard it, that you're having some drag shows where they're doing explicit things, and there's kids there. Well, my first question is, if they're doing explicit things, why do you have your kids there? Your kids shouldn't be there. It should be an age. I don't know if it's 18 or 21. If it's in a bar, then it's 21 because alcohol is being served. If it's not, then it's 18. You shouldn't have your kids there. That's a parental problem, first of all. But drag has been around forever. Now, Milton Berle was in drag. Flip Wilson was Geraldine in the 60s in drag. It was hilarious. Okay? Rudy Giuliani was in drag, and Donald Trump grabbed his boobs when he had fake boobs. Look the thing up. The video's on YouTube. It wasn't a problem then, but now it's a problem. The LGBT community, okay, now people have pronouns and stuff like that. It's certain people it drives nuts. It doesn't drive me nuts, because you know how I look at it? Maybe I don't understand all of it, but this is how I feel.
Okay.
It's not hurting me. If you want to be he, him, she, her, whatever it is, whatever pronoun makes you feel comfortable, I'm fine with that, because you're not hurting me. You're not hurting me. I don't go by a pronoun, but I'm not going to knock you because you do. Now, extreme, but some of it's BS, like they're talking about in schools with a social issue of kitty litter boxes. Okay, I've had congressmen that have gotten phone calls in Tennessee that I know. Actually, one of the Tennessee 3, Representative Gloria Johnson, who got a phone call about that, went to the school, found out it was bullshit, that it was not happening. But you have that spinning in the ether that it's happening. If it's happening, then I want it to be proven to me, and this is what I'll say. That's not normal. A kid shouldn't be identifying as a cat, and I'm not for putting a kitty litter box. Transgender is one thing. Kitty identifying as a cat, or here's the case. You had a man recently, this is fact, because I looked it up, and someone said it to me, I said, I got to see it for myself. Identifying as a little girl. That ain't normal, and no atmosphere for me. No, because I think it almost borders on pedophilia. That's not normal. So there's things that they go too far with, which is a common thread that Americans do. We always take something that starts out deep and then go too far with it. We do.
We do.
We do. Look, I always talk about movements. Movements are a good thing because movements can create change. But what I tell movements is this: the more people you have in a movement, the more the leadership of the movement and their foot soldiers down the chain of command has to be engaged in the movement, because the more people you have, the more propensity you have to have bad actors. Now, people talk about Black Lives Matter. I'm for the cause, but I'm not for looting and stuff like that. This is what I said about this, and I stand by it. Some people didn't like it. Some people agreed with me. There were some Black Lives Matter people that were looting, but there were also white supremacist groups that it was proven, not folklore, that infiltrated and acted like Black Lives Matter. Now, I'm not excusing the ones that did wrong, but that infiltrated and looted too. That's not right. I'm not for. Just like, look, if I'm going to complain about them attacking the Capitol, I'm damn sure going to complain about people burning down people's businesses. That's wrong. I'm for the premise, the movement. Now, also, I call out Black Lives Matter, the leadership. Some of the leadership has got caught taking money.
Yeah.
I don't like that, okay? It takes away from the cause. That's a big social issue. People say, Brad, you put up a meme and it says, all lives matter only when Black Lives Matter. And what I'm talking about, Nat, is not Black Lives, the organization. I'm talking about Black Lives Matter, because I'm going to tell you something. Whether people want to agree with me or not, I've seen it myself. When you say black, it's always a problem. People have to say all. All lives do matter. That's a given. But until Black Lives Matter, till police stop killing black people, till black people have the same voting rights as we do, and it's not up for question, that their houses aren't getting when they go to appraise them, or when they go get a loan and they're getting charged more interest. That's not right. That's not right.
It's not right. It's absolutely not. See, a lot of those things, it's like, I wish we would actually see the facts. Because if somebody could see the facts that especially for the mortgage, there it is. This happened to me. No, that's not right. The voting one, I do have a question for you. So I'm here in Georgia. You need to have a driver's license. That's it.
Right.
Educate me. What's wrong with that?
I don't have a problem with a driver's license.
Okay. And then there's voting locations in every community. If they're at a public school, then school's closed for the day. They might be at a public park. So I'm confused, because with the information that I've been able to get, I don't see in today's age, where are the difficulties to go and vote?
Well, with Georgia, the thing that I would ask you with Georgia is, why was there in a lot of black polling areas, why was it 2, 3, 4 hours, 5 hours for him to vote? What was going on down there?
I have no idea, but we didn't hear anything about that.
Oh, it was national news. And then you have Kemp signing legislation behind closed doors. It should be out in the open. And Kemp, Raffensperger, is from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
It went against Trump, and I can't think of the other guy. He said, no, our election was not stolen. But of course, you had the MAGA wing who tried to death threats and everything else come in there and want to try to overturn. And even Kemp went against, because Kemp was tight with Trump, and then he wasn't tight with Trump, and then Trump does what Trump always does. If you don't go with him, then he throws you under the bus.
Yep.
He did that to Kemp. So, you had Herschel Walker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how he in Georgia. I don't see how. I know he went for the whole pro-life thing, but it was proven that he paid for it. Hypocrisy. He paid for abortion. I know people could change, but what's that?
And he lost.
And and now he's not even a footnote. You don't even hear of him anymore. And I don't even hear much about Ossoff, but you had them run in a runoff. But what hurt them in the runoff in 20, was Trump. He told him, don't go vote because it's all rigged. So, it's like your poster child, I'm not saying you, but the poster child for the Republican Party, today, look, you said they need to show facts. I agree. They need to show facts. But the problem is, if you have 30% of the country that will believe anything that Trump says, and it's proven that it's not true, what do you do with that, Liz? What do you do with that?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have, look, it's like Ted Cruz. The Republicans hate Ted Cruz. They do. I've heard them. I've seen them. They hate his guts. They do. They don't like him. They think he's the biggest asshole in the Senate. But the problem is, if you're quiet and you're complacent, then you're compliant to what the extreme of your party is doing.
Yeah.
And again, no, with the immunization, the COVID, with the vaccinations, Reagan wouldn't have done that. Papa Bush wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have done it.
Mm-mm.
They wouldn't have done it. There would have been no problem. We would have got vaccinated and got through the whole thing. But you had a president who sat up there, which caused me to come completely off of boxing and MMA sports and go into this, that said, shove a light up your ass and drink bleach. And then looked over at poor Dr. Birx and was like, it's something we could look into. And she didn't, she wanted to say, look.
She just fell with her stars.
She's like, oh my God.
What to do?
Right. But look, let's be honest. I guarantee you'll agree with me on this. Before COVID, did you ever hear of Dr. Anthony Fauci?
No.
Okay. I didn't either. This poor little guy, Italian American, had to get security for his wife, for his daughter, because of Trump. That's the truth. I watched Trump in the White House turn to him in front of the cameras and say, because he's a narcissist, you're becoming more popular than I am. Are you kidding me?
It's, it is a calamity of characters. It's extremely frustrating for us, the Americans, to watch. I mean, I can't even imagine if I was European watching this shit show.
They're laughing at us.
They've been laughing at us for years. Right. It's very unfortunate. But let's talk about your podcast before I say goodnight. You've been so wonderful with your time with me tonight. We've gone up and down all the topics, and I've had a lot of fun.
Hey, Joe, you still with us, Joe? Where's Joe? I think 2057. If they work hard enough, they could probably get Trump charged with a can. See, I didn't see his little comment. If they work hard enough, they could probably get Trump charged with a Kenny. All right, Joe. Now you're playing Jackie Mason on me. Go ahead.
All right. So the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. Tell us what's happening, what's coming up next. And aside from badbradberkwitt.com, where can we watch it?
Okay. If you go to YouTube, the name of my channel is the Ringside Report web TV channel. But if you type in my name, you're going to find it. You'll find it probably quicker than that.
Okay.
Coming up, I got a repeat guest, Anthony the Mooch Scaramucci, my paisan. He's coming on next month. We're going to do a talking point, a little bit different than we ever done before. Anthony doesn't even know what I'm going to be doing this time around. I'm going to get back to doing what I did last year. I had 4 of them that were really popular. I even put my better half, Debbie, was on one of them. Actually, I would like to have you on one, Liz. I want to bring you on one. I've put together moving humanity forward panels. And it's just, I take questions from each of you and I throw them out to the panel on just humanity issues. It's not even really political stuff. I mean, sometimes politics play in it, but humanity stuff. And I'm going to have you on one of them. I want to get back to doing those. I usually do 3 people. I've done 4 people. I usually do 3 people, and it's gone over really well. I've had on politicians. I put one together with Glenn Kirshner, Frank Figluzzi, Jim Pettick, who's an actor and author, and believe it or not, Jack Hughes, who's half of Wang Chung, the singer. So you had really a diverse group. And I had Senator Campbell, Representative Gloria Johnson. She's one of Tennessee 3. This was before she became national news. And then I had one with Sherry. I don't know if you know Sherry Jacobus. I had Pam Keith, and then Ann Cusack, who's an actress, John Cusack's sister. She was on one of my panels too. So I want to get back to those. And just the whole premise of the show is moving humanity forward. Right now, I'm trying to get more. To be honest with you, I'm trying to get more. I can't do the MAGA Republicans. I'm sorry. If I could find a more centered, fair, that's not a Trump supporter, which unfortunately that most of them are, and the other ones are scared to say it because when they do, they get primaried. How messed up is that?
Would you ever want to have Ben Shapiro on?
No, Ben Shapiro, I never have on. I can't stand Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro's so funny.
Not a Trump supporter.
Ben Shapiro's a huge Trump supporter.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Are you kidding me?
I promise.
I'll send you shows where all Ben is doing is kissing Trump's ass. Ben Shapiro? You pull Ben Shapiro up. He's not even a rhino. You can't even call him a rhino. But no, Ben Shapiro, no. But I wouldn't mind having. I would have Republicans, but they can't be. They have to be against Trump. They could be for anybody else. They could be against Biden. Fine. But the Trumps, no, I can't do any Trump. I'm trying to get more Democrats on because I want them to not just do a 10-minute segment on CNN or MSNBC. I want to ask them tough questions. Yeah. I want to ask them, do you feel whatever the tough question of the day is, and hold their feet to the fire. Be respectful, but hold their feet to the fire. And Republicans are welcome, but my one prerequisite is you cannot be a Trump supporter. I don't care who else you support for the most part, but it can't be Trump. I'm done with. There's nothing you could tell me about Trump that, and I'm getting tired of the whole. Well, I don't like his rhetoric, and I don't like that he calls women pigs, and that he's a serial adulterer, and a lot. But I like his policies. No, here's the thing. I like Biden, so I'm stuck with all of Biden. If you say, well, Biden's this, that, and the other, and I support him, well, I own all of it, and I'll accept that. If you support Trump, you own his racism, his misogyny, his narcissism, and his constant lies. You own it. You don't get to pick and choose which pieces of me you like and you don't like because they're all public. You know what they are. And I don't accept the whole policy thing. I don't. I don't think his policy is that great. I know some people do. Fine, you're entitled to. Look, one point I want to make for your viewers, they'll say, this fucking guy, all he wants to do is talk about Trump. I'm going to give Trump a positive. How about this one?
Okay.
Trump always, you said it, foot and mouth disease. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Here's where he could take credit and do it a lap around the track, but he can't do it because he can't shut his mouth and get out of his own way. I am always fair, whether it's about me, my strengths, or my weaknesses. If you ask me an honest question, I'm going to give you an answer. Mm-hmm. You may not like the answer, but that's what it is. The one thing I can give Trump during his presidency that he did do, Operation Warp Speed. Whether he didn't do it per se himself, but his administration did it. He was the president. He got a vaccination up there real quick. Happened quick under his watch. He should have been campaigning on that. And I know for a fact this is true that some of his more normal cabinet, not the 7th and 8th and 12th replacements that were sycophants. I'm talking about early on. Told him, Mr. President, please talk about Operation Warp Speed. Stop making comments like, the doctor said I was so smart I could be a doctor. People don't want to hear that bullshit. No one wants to hear about to light up your ass and bleach down your throat. He said it. He owns it. They couldn't get him to talk about it. And Biden and Harris did the shot in front of everybody. If Trump would have worn a fucking mask, there would have been a lot of people that would be alive today that wouldn't have. Am I saying the mask was the end all be all? No, but it helped, and it was proven. The conspiracy theory people are going to tell you something else. Mm-hmm. I wore a mask during that time. If they need me to wear a mask now to go somewhere, I'm wearing a mask. I'm not going to argue with their rules. He wouldn't wear a mask. I know why he wouldn't wear a mask. I'm not being funny. He wouldn't wear a mask because he paints himself orange, and he knows that he would look probably ridiculous if he took it off. So he didn't want to look a fool, more of an orange buffoon than he already looked. But he wouldn't wear. But leadership, Liz, you know this. You own a business. Leadership comes from the top. Mm-hmm. If Biden sets an example and it's a poor example, people are going to follow that poor example. Mm-hmm. If you're the boss and you don't have safety within your construction company, you don't push for it, you walk around in an area with no heart at it, what do you think your employees are going to do? Right. You set the tone. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. And the thing is, it came out. Listen to the Bob Woodward tapes. I'm not making this shit up. It came out that he knew how bad COVID was. And one more thing with the COVID, calling it the Wuhan flu and the China flu when it raised hate crimes in the Asian community. Come on.
Yeah.
Tell me a Republican president that did that before. You can't name one.
No.
Even if they said something stupid in private, both sides, they wouldn't stand in front of the bully pulpit and say the Wuhan flu, China flu, and all that. They wouldn't have done that. That's
No,
not presidential.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Definitely. Well, all right. Keep us up to date as to what's going on in the show. I'd love to be a guest on your show, Brad.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank
I'll
you
hit
so
you up.
much for your time this evening. This has really been a lot of fun. I didn't know what to expect because, as I said, I don't usually talk about politics, but there's just so much going on. I mean, we
There
could
is.
do hours. But thank you, Brad. It's
You're
been
welcome.
really nice to see you again, and just let me know whenever you want to come back on the show.
Okay.
All right, take
Good
care.
night.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being so interactive and watching the show. As always, we are blessed. You are blessed. Mwah. I love you. I will see you again for another great show. Stay tuned.